Let's look at the meat of things now. People always say some of the most contentious regions now, at least for whoever emerges for the PDP now, most people will say that most of the South and the Southeast most likely would go their way. The Southwest and the Northwest are two very important regions for whoever is going to be candidates of the PDP. And we know that it's almost impossible to win an election in this country without winning at least one of those regions. I mean, some people have won one or the other, but if you get both, why not? Which was what President Buhari had to go through before he got into office the last time. Do you see any of those candidates actually being able? Because we hear that the APC has a strong footing in the Southwest, thanks to the former governor of Lagos State, who has also made the region very strong. President Buhari is from the Northwest, which is also strongly an APC region, besides Tambuwal now, who has sort of shifted base from that. Do you see a PDP candidate wresting one of these regions seriously from the APC?
Well, in the last election, Buhari won in the entire North. North Central, North East, Northwest. That's a lot of votes. From the Northwest alone, over 7 million votes were cast. You know, from the Northeast, over 5 million votes were cast. Right? If I count very well for both candidates, okay. The Southwest, he won marginally. So, and his popularity, let's face it, the popularity of a candidate is always not equal to the popularity of a sitting president. So he's not as popular as he was in 2014 in the Southwest. At least we now know that a lot the enigma, if you like, the larger than life image.
But the party has won all the elections held in the Southwest.
Oh yes, so in those elections we could contend that the same thing applied. For example, in Ekiti State, there is that thing about the popularity of the sitting governor, Fayose, and the contender largely subsumed himself under the image of Fayose, which I think is a mistake. So he inherited all of Fayose's enemies, but not all of his friends, both within the party and outside of it. He should have contested on his own pedigree and put himself out there. But now I can't even remember his name. I can remember Fayose as the person that led that campaign, and it wasn't his DG. So there are a few other factors. Now, when Buhari is on the ballot, people do not look to the party ruling their state. That's not how a lot of persons voted in the last election. They were just simply tired of Jonathan, and they wanted to vote anybody but Jonathan. And it didn't really matter whether the person was from the dominant party in their area or not. That's exactly what happened. Now, those situations have changed. Buhari is now the sitting president. We've come from a recession into a pseudo-recession, if you ask me. And like I mentioned, the fundamentals aren't so good. Insecurity hasn't improved. If anything, the scope of it has increased. And you look at all of these elections are more fraught with irregularities than it was in 2015. So a lot of factors have eaten away into the popularity of this president that will make the kind of calculation that brought him to power difficult to replicate.
Well, 2019 is still a few weeks away, a few months away. We'll be having these conversations to see how they shape up. Let's look at the INEC now, the budget, which is unbelievable that we're talking about that still in August of 2018. Barely, I don't know, you can even say days to the election. What is going on? I mean, why did it take, first of all, INEC this long to release a budget, as important as it is, and now we're hearing talks about, okay, they need to reconvene to pass it quickly. What is really happening? And how scary a situation is this?
Well, okay, so I'll say two things. So first, it's easy to lay the bulk somewhere. And we can say the executive arm of government, again, they presented the budget only in July, I think 17th, thereabouts. And then it's only 2 months, and they're acting like they've been in a hurry all the while. That's ridiculous. So the National Assembly needs time to also do their work, especially that the budget is full of funny line items, okay? So that's on the one hand. But more importantly, in this case, I do not want to just lay all of the blame on the executive. When we were debating the 2018 budget for so many months, it is curious to me that in the National Assembly, every single member of the National Assembly is a politician and an elected official, and nobody pointed out that INEC budget for election in 2019 wasn't represented and defended. That for me is preposterous.
There's a committee on INEC, isn't there?
Yes, there is a committee on INEC, and there is a budget committee, and they totally took all of that budget apart. But everybody forgot the one line item that affects them directly, which is election, the basis for democracy, the basis for the kind of government we have. Nobody looked. Otherwise, all of these would have, been considered alongside that budget, and we wouldn't have this issue. Now, I read a very scary aspect of the presentation by the Minister of Budget and Planning, where he made allusions to the fact that they want to keep the 9 trillion constant, but they want the money taken out of certain line items that have been included there by the National Assembly. That is clearly contentious, because when those line items were included, they were included for specific purposes in the hearts and minds of the senators and rep members.
Very quickly, because we're running out of time now, what do you think is going to happen? And I mean, the budgets, people are even complaining about how much they need. It's probably going to be the most expensive election we've ever had. What do you think is going to happen?
Nothing. I see nothing wrong if the budget is passed on the 25th of September when the Senate reconvenes, because that would be just over 2 months of work time, and I see nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I do not see how that can have any impact on any of the purchases they need to make. That's at least 5 months lead time. That's more lead time to bring anything from any part of the world than you need from a purely logistics standpoint.
Do you think the budget is humongous?
It is big, but it's not the biggest problem we have right now. The biggest problem we have is with all of the irregularities we've had during the by-elections. What can INEC tell Nigerians? What is going to be different to guarantee a free and fair election in 2019? Because if that does not happen, the docility that has kept Nigerians away from the streets, that veil of docility will be lifted, because poverty has deepened, insecurity has deepened, and the only thing Nigerians want to see is that their votes, the only thing they have, in terms of, is at least counted. This is not about patriotism anymore. It is about respect. The Nigerians are not dogs and cats controlled by political elite, but we must be treated as humans. And I say this with a strong sense of appeal to the ruling class, that if you take us for granted in 2019, you will be surprised what Nigerians can do by themselves. After all, we have always lived without the government.
Thank you very much, Leonard, for that very extensive conversation. Hopefully, September is around the corner. It's a very critical month for the 2019 elections, primaries, the INEC budget, the Senate. We'll be watching that space very closely. Thanks for being here today. We'll take a break now and be right back. Please don't go away.